What's up everybody and welcome to another edition of AGR's Pop Culture Reviews. And here's the deal, I actually meant to get this review out a long time ago, but things got in the way and I had to push things aside and stuff like that. But I'm now getting to this review, and as luck would have it, as soon as I finished the playthrough for this game, my PS4 crashed. So full disclosure, this is actually not my game footage, this is stock footage that you can find on the interwebs, so I just gotta let you know that. So after weeks and weeks of putting this game off, I finally got to play it, and I have to say it was well worth the wait. This game is absolutely amazing. The other thing too is I actually downloaded this game as a DLC back when it originally came out on the PlayStation Network, and as luck would have it, I actually got a deluxe edition, basically the collector's edition of this game, for review, which is really cool. It's always nice to get a little bit of swag, so I want to thank the folks over at Tarsier Studios and Bandai Entertainment. So this is my official review on the game Little Nightmares. Let's take a closer look. Little Nightmares is not necessarily a revolutionary game or an original concept, but it is very unique in a specific genre that has become more and more popular in the tradition of games like Unravel and Limbo. Very similar to both Limbo and Unravel, Little Nightmares is at its core and its true pedigree essentially a survival horror platform adventure game. If I had to compare the three games and say which one is more similar than the other, I would have to say that Little Nightmares has a lot more in common in terms of atmosphere, ambiance, subject matter, and creep factor with a game like Limbo. Though Unravel did explore a whole range of human emotions, some of them sobering, especially when you're reminiscing about memories, good or bad, it did provide some levity, mostly because some of the gameplay was very whimsical, particularly your avatar, Yarny. Little Nightmares, on the other hand, very similar to Limbo, is incredibly atmospheric and at times brutally graphic. It really delves deep into the recesses of our human psyche and exposes these very visceral and nightmarish things. Now, one aspect that ties all three of these games together is that you don't get too much backstory on your protagonist or avatar. And I think that's one of the most intriguing things about this genre of games. All we know is that you play as a 9-year-old girl named Six. Half starved, you wake up in the bowels of this insane world, and you've got to find a way out. You have no weapons and no tools at your disposal except for one, a lighter that lights the way in very dark areas, but that's it. In this respect, the narrative or any kind of backstory of what's going on here in this very unique situation is told to the horrifying and hauntingly disturbing imagery that you find throughout the game, subtle cues to the fact that you are in a dangerous world and you need to find a way out. One of the true strengths of this game and games of this type is that you get to manipulate the environment in order for you to ascend or go to the next level, which is fantastic. Oftentimes, this game does not hold your hand and only points out certain clues when you're stuck. But other than that, you've really got to rely on yourself and your ingenuity to get to the next level. Another incredible aspect of this game is that although it is a side-scroller, so to speak, in that you're moving from left to right, it makes excellent use of three-dimensional space. What's also pretty interesting is that there is some exploration here, in that there are branching paths. Now, it won't change the outcome because you've ultimately got to move in the same direction, but for the purposes of exploring and trying to get a little bit more backstory, as grisly as it is, you can venture off into different paths, which is pretty cool, albeit somewhat superficial. Now, as I mentioned before, this game has very little hand-holding, so it's really going to test your hand-eye coordination, particularly in the three-dimensional space. This game is incredibly unforgiving, and your movements have to be precise and laser accurate, otherwise you're gonna die. And speaking of that, you're gonna die a lot. True to its predecessors, a lot of what Little Nightmares is all about is definitely trial and error in getting to the next levels. So guys, don't get frustrated. Really, this game is testing your ability in terms of your cognitive functions to make sure that they're on par to survive this horrible nightmare. Now, I'm a little biased because I absolutely love puzzle games, and I remember back in the days of the Resident Evil series where I absolutely loved solving those puzzles. It made me feel smarter than I actually am, and there was a lot of satisfaction when you finally got through them, and Little Nightmares has several of them. Now, they range from very simple puzzles to sometimes somewhat frustrating puzzle solving, but either way, once you solve them, it's fantastic. And I definitely love the variety, whether or not you're trying to find a key or you need to manipulate certain objects to throw at other things in order to set off traps or to set off elevators and stuff like that. But I think most intriguing is the kind of terrestrial things that you have to do in order to get to the next level, which is absolutely fantastic and very unique. I hadn't seen this since the game like Limbo, and I'm glad that they incorporated it into this title. I think for me, the most terrifying aspect of this game was definitely in the enemy types and just the surreal imagery. I mean, it's really disturbing. Think Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas style of enemy types, and you'll see where I'm going here. They absolutely freaked me out, especially this blind kind of long-eared thing, or long-armed thing I should say, which really freaked me the hell out. Now, you also have to be very careful because some of the terrain actually works as a disadvantage, so they are puzzles in and of themselves, which is pretty interesting. Now, most of the criticism that I've heard about a game like Little Nightmares, especially games like Limbo and Unravel, is that the campaign is relatively short. Now, this one kind of clocks out between 4 and 5 hours, depending on how much you explore and also how much you die. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. This is short and sweet, and I will say this, that although the campaign is short, it is 4 or 5 hours of the most memorable gameplay and puzzle solving that you will have in any other game. Absolutely fantastic. Ultimately, guys, Little Nightmares is a horrifyingly haunting, disturbing, awesome game. You got to play it. Everybody's got 4 or 5 hours. Definitely check this one out, guys. You don't want to miss it. Alright everybody, so that's my official review on the game Little Nightmares. As always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next AGR's Pop Culture Reviews.